64K Retro Gaming Goodness.
Hey, Bastish B here for 64K and welcome to another episode of Top 10s.
Welcome to 64K, hosted by Bastish B.
And welcome back. So on today's episode we're going to be having a look at my personal favorite top 10 Commodore 64 games of 2020. Now obviously there were a lot of releases by a lot of the major companies, and I tried to play as much of them as I could. I didn't play everything. I'm sure there's some games that slipped through the cracks, and I just played as much as I could. So this is just my personal favorites, top 10. Whatever yours are is yours. Hopefully if you watch this video you might discover a couple of ones that you might have missed and you can go check them out. Also remember, in the countdown videos right before the number one reveal I'll give an honorable mentions list, so if you don't see your favorites up until that point they may be included there. And also in the video description I'll have links to every single game that is mentioned in this video, so you can download them and find them very easily. So without further ado, let's get on with this countdown. The Lord of Dragonspire was released in December 2019 by Icon on the C64 as part of the Zap64 2020 annual stretch goal collaboration. It received a general physical and digital release though in the first quarter of 2020 to the masses. Much like Master of Magic, Dragonspire is soaking in high fantasy tropes, with the basics of the story involving you needing to get to the Dragonspire Tower and fight your way up to the top and kill the Demon Lord who's taken up residence and is using the tower's dark magic to bring back all the nasty creatures of old. As you can no doubt see, Dragonspire wears its inspiration proud, with the game mimicking the look, feel and style of said classic to a T. The play area though is much larger, giving you a bit less of a claustrophobic feel as Magic, but besides that they are extremely similar. The game has all the exploration elements that make this style of game so addictive, which is what's around that next corner and do I risk searching it even though I've got no more food left. It's that kind of feel which makes it so enjoyable. As you can also see, creatures are visible on screen, so you can avoid combat if you like, just like Master of Magic. The one big difference in these games is the difficulty, with Dragonspire being pretty tough initially until you level up a bit. You can down almost any encounter and healing food is pretty scarce, so getting into the game does require skill but also a large dose of luck, especially in the early beginnings. Besides this grunt though, it's well made with some nice graphics and a truly epic SID soundtrack that's more than 10 minutes long by the great Jason Page. That is a fitting fantasy tribute to Hubbard's classic. We also got Stuart Collier on coding duties, as well as Trevor Story on game design and art. These guys have all been involved in one way or another with some of the best software released on the C64 over the last 10 years. Also, as with a bunch of Icon's recent releases, you also get a cool music demo as well. That's a fun way to listen to the soundtrack uninterrupted. Like I mentioned earlier, the game is available in digital and physical form from Cytronic Software on the C64, and I'll leave a link in the description to the game. Overall it's really enjoyable, which like Master combines light RPG elements and turn-based action into a satisfying fantasy exploration game that's definitely worth your time.
Number 9.
So 35 years after its initial release, we finally got to see an unofficial port of King's Valley to the C64 in 2020. So how does it stack up to the MSX original? Pretty simply, I would say it's slightly better in my opinion. Just like a lot of new C64 games, it uses the high-res mode to make some really nice detailed graphics, especially on the main character who looks much more detailed than the MSX original. The team also managed to port the entire game as well, all 15 tunes, with a nice music score which pretty much replicates the original exactly. The game was programmed by Mario Mora and has been released through rebitmagazine.it, and I'll leave a link to it in the description. It was originally slated to be a full commercial release through Cytronic Software, with them even trying to work out some sort of official deal with Konami. but alas, something went wrong and Cytronic pulled out, which means the awesome Steve Day loader screen is now no longer, unfortunately, part of the game. The positive aspect to this is that the game is still available through Rebit, and now that the fact that it's unofficial, it is also free. The game is extremely fun, and you could probably compare it to Lode Runner in terms of gameplay. It's very arcadey, but at the same time it's pretty strategic, and I think it's these elements which make it so addictive, with the main gameplay mechanic being you can only carry one item at a time, so knowing when to pick up a knife or a shovel for digging or jumping your way out of a bad situation, there's a lot of fun to be had. You should check this one out, you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Number 8.
37 years after its original release, we finally get a port of Atic Atac to the C64. And when I say port, I mean that in the most basic sense, as this version is greatly enhanced over the original, from its excellent colorful C64 style graphics, which are well animated, and the cool atmospheric music. The gameplay is still the same though, as you get to choose between a wizard, surf, and knight, as in the original, running around finding secret rooms behind bookshelves, blasting beasties, and collecting items and keys to open new areas, are all here making this feel and play just like the original. This is definitely a labor of love conversion from the team of Stephen Day on graphics, who's lent his talents to so many great C64 conversions over the last few years, such as 2014's Donkey Kong Jr. and 2011's excellent Prince of Persia conversions, which I've covered in this series as well if you want to check them out. The coding was done by the highly talented Tomcat of the C64 cracking group Nostalgia, the guys that gave us the enhanced version of the Chris Butler classics Commodore and Ghosts and Goblins. And this is not just a simple conversion, as it also includes some secret side missions and items added exclusively to this version. With this and all the recent enhanced ports of Ultimate games to the C64 like Knightlaw and Alien 8 amongst many more, the Commodore is getting pretty close to the entire Ultimate library available, which is a pretty amazing contribution by everybody that supports this awesome computer. Here's hoping we'll see many more years of excellent unconverted ports to this great system. The Isle of the Cursed Prophet was released in 2020 and developed by the team Icon64 and distributed by Cytronic Software. The game falls into the action-adventure genre, even though it resembles an RPG. It's way more Legend of Zelda than Ultima though. The game's story sees your character embarking on a quest to resurrect his dead wife. He believes the answers and solution to his situation lie on the Cursed Isle. Thus, the quest begins. The gameplay involves lots of exploration, light puzzle solving, and tons of action. Your character levels up after a number of kills, giving you more health in the process. Keys can be found to open towers and other structures as you search this massive open world island. The graphics are really good, employing some nice high-res characters and foes, with the intro to the game being particularly excellent, really setting the tone and atmosphere up well. The music is somber and dark and feels right at home as you search this creepy island, with Jason Page and Sol Cross on audio. The rest of the Icon64 guys are also on hand, with Age of Heroes coder Akim Volkers and Rocky Memphis designer Trevor Story all contributing to this excellent little game. It is both NTSC and PAL compatible and available in digital and physical forms, and links to this are in the video description to another excellent Icon64 release.
Number 6.
Foxy Moxie was released by RGCD in the third quarter of 2020.
RGCD presents.
It's an action puzzle game coded and put together by the team of Antonio Savona, Lobo, and Aldo Cuomo. The story for the game goes, an old wizard accidentally casts a spell which causes the whole kingdom to be overrun by dodgy chattering skulls that just won't shut up, similar to Boney from the Trapdoor.
Bored. I say, Burke, what about a game of I Spy?
Damn, that guy was chatty. But two cats step up to the task, Boxy and Moxie, and go about destroying them, so everyone in the kingdom can have a good night's sleep. The gameplay is essentially a puzzle game where destroying the skulls in the least amount of moves is the objective. The less moves it takes, the higher your ranking will be, therefore earning you more stars. The amount of stars you possess is how the levels are unlocked, so the better you do, the further you get. The gameplay is simple and easy to get to grips with. You control both cats. With a simple press of the fire button, you can jump between them. One cat you position to block the other's movements, while the other is capable of destroying the skulls. It's a simple, addictive puzzle element, but makes it a lot of fun to play. And this is coming from a person who's not a massive fan of this genre of game. The game does sport a massive 60 levels overall, spread across 3 distinctly different settings from around the kingdom. You'll probably eventually get to a point where you won't be able to go any further, because you're going to need more stars. Fortunately, you can go back on levels and try to do better to get that extra star. As far as the graphics go, it's really top-notch quality with very bright and colorful levels and excellent menu screens, intermission, and a very cool ending. A lot of time and effort has obviously gone into it for sure. You can also select sound effects or music, which is good because the castle music level is quite grating. But besides that track, the rest of the music is really quite catchy and some great little Sid tunes. It also features a bunch of digitized cat meows, which is also pretty cool. The game is available digitally as a pay-what-you-want title, which is nice, so there's no reason not to try it out. And it's also NTSC and PAL compatible. You can also purchase, as of making this video, a physical cart version from RGCD, which comes with all the excellent extras that they always throw in as well. And if you're finding the game a little bit too hard, the group access has a nice downloadable trainer available as well, if you want to cheat or do some level skipping. I'll leave a link in the description for all 3 of these so you can check them out. Overall, it's a well-made, addictive little puzzle that's a nice distraction from all the other overcomplicated stuff you may be playing, so why not give it a go?
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Are you keeping up with the Commodore? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you.
The world's #1 selling home computer is now in a family pack, the Commodore 64, plus data cassette and joystick, 4 software programs including Introduction to Basic, a teach-yourself program for the whole family. The Commodore 64 Family Pack, a value of $700 for just $499.
Are you keeping up with the Commodore? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you.
Number 5.
Zeta Wing was released in September 2020 through Protovision. It's a fantastic vertical scrolling shoot 'em up on the Commodore 64 by Sarah Jane Avery, who gave us 2019's Neutron, which is basically the precursor to this great shooter. Check out my top 10 2019 release Commodore 64 games for more info on that one. This game is a throwback to old style arcade games from the 80s and early 90s, especially the arcade shooter Gemini Wing by Tecmo, which Sarah says was the inspiration for Zeta Wing. You can definitely see it in the creature and level design, and it's a great ode to that game, which incidentally Sarah was also part of the same team in 1989 that converted Gemini Wing to the Amiga. And back to Zeta, which has 7 stages in total, with 3 difficulty settings, making it easy for people that find shoot 'em ups difficult to have a good time. The first thing I loved about this was the bouncy fun music. It's instantly likable and brought a smile to my face, as it reminded me a lot of shooters like Fantasy Zone and Parodius. All the music, graphics and programming were done by Sarah herself, making this game one of those classic one-man or one-woman shows. The game flows extremely well, with a simple to understand weapons upgrade system and a player-friendly way of dealing with hits, meaning if you take a stray bullet you will only lose 1 level of your upgraded weapons, so you're never left stranded with 0 upgrades on the hardest part of a level. The graphics are great with tons of awesome parallax scrolling and well animated enemies and bosses. I also love the variety in the levels. It's not just one of those kind of space shooters where it's the same scenery over and over again. Each level has its own look and cool tricky bosses to overcome. Sarah describes herself as a full-time game program and part-time writer, which she is the author of the Briley Witch novels, which she is currently making into an RPG on the Commodore 64. As a programmer, you can definitely see where she got the skills to make such a fantastic shoot 'em up. The combination of the Gemini Wing conversion, plus she also worked on 2 excellent core design shooters on the Mega CD/Sega CD, namely the brilliant Soulstar and Thunderstrike. Overall, I loved it. It plays really well. It doesn't feel cheap. You always get a little bit further each time. The graphics and sound are both top-notch quality. Also of special note, if you downloaded this game in the first day or 2 of release, just make sure you download the new version as of making this, as it adds a savable high score table to the game for some added replay value. The full soundtrack for the game has also been uploaded to YouTube by Sarah herself, and the game is available available as a digital download for the C64 and works with original hardware, Mini, Maxi and VAS. All links are available in the video description. This is just a cool shooter done with a ton of passion for the genre. Check it out, it's well worth it. Hired Sword 2 was released in 2020 by Double-Sided Games. It's a game in the genre that rarely gets any support in the modern era on the C64, namely the RPG. And this is a full-on RPG, much in the vein of the classic Ultima games or early SSI titles of the era. Although this one has a twist, it really doesn't take itself too seriously, which makes it break out of the mold of most RPGs. The story involves you trying to track down the hot elf girl you met in the bar the previous night before getting so drunk and passing out. It's a traditional top-down RPG with all the tropes intact. The battles, however, are turn-based but are super fast, making it feel much more modern in that respect. The world is pretty big with 9 massive dungeons to explore and over 30 unique monsters to fight. Also, the armor and weapons you find are randomly generated, much like the modern game Borderlands, for example. This is a fun and very easy to pick up RPG with quirky modern humor that may not be for everyone and fast-paced battles. It's available in physical and digital forms, and the digital version comes with the original Hired Sword game as a bonus, which you don't have to have played to enjoy this one. It's a great C64 variation on the classic RPG mechanics by Double-Sided Games.
Number 3.
It Felix Jr. was released in 2020 by Antonio Savona and team, who've already made some appearances on this list and are the same guys including Stephen Day on graphics and Sol Cross on music and sound effects, who did all those excellent Atari Activision conversions to the C64 last year. And if you want to see more about that, please check out my video on the subject. As far as this game goes, it's an unofficial version of the arcade style game It Felix Jr., which appears in the movie Wreck-It Ralph, which is a movie about classic video game characters. I think we've come full circle. The game is a version of a Flash game made by Disney and has seen other appearances such as a Sega Genesis version as well. The gameplay is very reminiscent of early 80s arcade style games like a little bit of Donkey Kong, Alley Cat and many others, where you play Felix as you attempt to fix up buildings as Ralph freaks out and destroys them. It's simple risk-reward gameplay as you jump around dodging debris, birds and other hazards while fixing all the windows and collecting as many bonus items as possible. Graphics are quite excellent and capture the characters extremely well and are nice and colourful with awesome speech samples.
Hey, you moved my stuff!
And a fun music score and some excellent little cutscenes. This is just a must-play game for anybody wanting to get one of those quick-fix arcade experiences on the C64.
Number 2.
MW Ultra or Metal Warrior Ultra by Cytronic Software is a side-scrolling action-adventure game distributed by Protovision in 2020. It is part of the Metal Warrior series that started on the C64 in 1999 with its first release, as it was originally an Amiga game from 1994. But this game is a massive overhaul or update of that original C64 version. The story is your friend dies on an illegal job that you're trying to pull off, which leads to a local metal band, as well as your own cracked psyche as you try to solve all the conspiracies surrounding it. The game was made by Lasse Arne, who made the excellent Steel Ranger and Hessian, and if you want to see more about Steel Ranger, check out my video I just did about it. The game features a massive futuristic open world to explore, full of puzzles and people to talk to, cinematic cutscenes, massive bosses, a huge assortment of weapons to buy, built-in save game slots, excellent music and sound effects, awesome graphics and animation, and top-notch gameplay to make it quite a remarkable game. It took 2 years to put together with a completely new engine and is a huge upgrade from the original version in every sense, almost to the point that it's a completely new game. If you got a chance to play Steel Ranger, then you know the kind of coolness that Lasse can deliver, and this does that in spades. The game is available from Protovision in physical and digital versions. It's a high-quality action-adventure game that mixes the best of the genre with some really excellent storytelling. It's just a must-play game of 2020. Okay, so let's just stop here for a second and check out some honorable mentions. These games just didn't make the list, but are still well worth checking out. This list of games definitely goes hand in hand with the top 10 as must-play games if you really like these particular genres. First up is Katabatia, my favorite roguelike game of the year. It's way better than the very slow and boring Fallen that was also released on the C64, and it's an excellent game which just narrowly missed out on making a top 10 appearance. Wormhole from Protovision is next, a really good side-scrolling action game that for whatever reason just got lost in the shuffle, I think. I've never seen anybody actually even mention this game, which is a real shame. It's pretty good, but it's damn hard, so be warned. Freaky Fish DX is a fun 5-minute style arcade game that is just charming and simple to play, and is a great C64 palate cleanser to try out. Flying Saucers is much in the same vein, as it's a variation on Defender, as you protect the city from aliens. Good, quick fun at your fingertips. Old Tower is a unique action puzzle style game that is not like any recent C64 release that I can think of. It's got some really good music as well. Planet X 2.1 is an updated version of Planet X released by Protovision. If you like the original strategy game, this game adds cool new music, graphics, and a whole lot more. Millie and Molly is another puzzle game in the vein of BoxyMoxy. I thought it was well made, but it just never drew me in, although a lot of other people really like it. So if you like this style of game, then definitely give it a go. And lastly is an update of Manic Miner called 64DX. It's a loving update of the original C64 version and is a must play if you really like the original. There were also many demos of games that weren't really ready yet or still in development, and some of them I just haven't got to play the full versions yet, but they looked pretty cool, and 2021 is definitely going to have a lot of good C64 stuff to look forward to, so I can't wait. Okay, so now let's check out that #1 game.
And number 1 is...
And here it is, my #1 for 2020, which is The Shadow over Hawksmill by Archon64 and distributed by Cytronic Software. This is Archon64's third appearance on this list, and a much deserved entry, as they deliver their best game of the year in my opinion. Hawksmill is an action puzzle adventure game inspired by the works of author H.P. Lovecraft, where your character heads off to a sleepy English village, Hawksmill, to investigate the disappearance of all the townsfolk. You've been studying the Necronomicon and believe the disappearances and the book are linked. This game follows on from the excellent Rocky Memphis game, with similar action, puzzle and investigation stylings, and is dripping in excellent atmosphere with its awesome soundtrack, just driving home that sense of dread as you investigate the town. It's also really big, with about 60 screens to go through as you start in the town square before descending deeper and deeper underground to the heart of the story. It's very well designed, with simple controls and logical puzzles that make sense, and quick, fast action gameplay, and manages to really suck you into the world, as I couldn't stop playing it until I'd gone all the way. It's also got a really good intro like Archon's Isle of the Cursed Prophet, which really sets the mood and story up well, and is a graphic delight, as is the game, which was coded by Stuart Collier of Sizzler and Legend of Atlantis fame, Trevor Story on graphics and design, and obviously Soul Cross with another great soundtrack that gels with the game so well. It also features one of those cool Archon64 music demos where you can check out some music from some of their previous games as a bonus. The game is NTSC and PAL compatible and available in digital and physical form from Cytronic Software. And this is just a game I would not hesitate recommending to any C64 gamer, as it's not only a great game for veterans, but also an easy game to get into for newbies to the C64 scene. Well done Archon64 and Cytronic Software for producing my personal favorite C64 game of 2020. Okay, so what are my overall impressions of the 2020 games on the Commodore 64? I think they were pretty fantastic. I think you got one of the best lineups in recent years. Such a good chunk of variety all going on there. You even got a full-on RPG, which is pretty rare. That genre is just not covered because obviously it's hard to make. Racing games, I noticed, are still being left in the dust as far as the C64 like new games. Nobody seems to want to attempt to do those, but you know, maybe 2021 will bring us some cool racing game, who knows. Or how about a good old multi-event sports game? Nobody's attempted that either, so that'll be interesting. My #1 choice was based on the fact that Shadow over Hawksmill just kind of just drew me in. Every single element of that game came together perfectly. The sound, the sound design, the graphics, the mystery of it, the progression and how you find out things and how you go deeper and deeper, you know, through the town and underground. It just made me want to continue playing it to see what happened at the end, and every screen was like a bit of a mystery. That combination just doesn't come along very often, and that's why I chose it as my number one. Obviously whatever yours is yours. I'm also interested in any games I missed that you think are really cool. I'd love to check them out, so just, you know, put them in your comments and I'll check them out, and hopefully maybe I can do a review on them if I like them. Also, one other thing, any game released in December of 2020 is not included in this list. Obviously there has to be a cutoff because I have to make the video and release it. So any cool Commodore 64 games that came out in December 2020 this month, as of making this, I will include it in next year's list if they are, so they will definitely not be forgotten. And thanks for joining me, BoxyMoxy at 64K. I hope you had a good time. If you can like and subscribe, that'll be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.